Space was silent, and if the Thurs arrived, the Dominion fleet emerged from folded subspace like the teeth of a mechanical beast, slicing across the cold dark above Sol system. 30 warships, sleek and organic in design, glistened like obsidian, serpents in Earth's orbit, their hulls pulsed with living biometal, their spines lined with turrets that tracked in all directions. Inside the lead vessel, Koshver High Commander Zach stood before the central viewing sphere, studying the blue-green world below. His 5 eyes blinked out of sync, the thick ridges on his forehead curling in disdain. Primitive, he rasped. Oceans and cities, no planetary shield, minimal off-world presence, ununified command structure, no threat. His lieutenant bowed, crest twitching nervously. There is inconsistency, Commander. Our long-range probes show signs of technology beyond expected development. Blackouts, deep orbital debris suggesting kinetic defense systems. Jacques' mandibles clicked once in irritation. They are mammals barely past atmospheric fission. Their records call this place Earth, a relic world. They are still arguing about borders and food. He turned to the broadcast chamber. Open channel. Standard Galactic Core dialect. The lieutenant hesitated. Sir, they haven't responded to prior contact attempts. They're global net now, Zach snapped. Across the entire globe, every communication channel, radio, television, satellite uplink, personal device flashed and went black. Then a single image appeared. The towering silhouette of Zach cloaked in imperial regalia, eyes glowing amber with contempt. His voice echoed from rooftops, smartphones, space stations. Inhabitants of Earth, you now face the Thurs Dominion. Resistance is futile. You will surrender all orbital assets and genetic archives. Refusal will result in planetary sterilization. You have 5 planetary rotations to comply. And then nothing. No reply. No panic. No emergency alerts. No scrambling, ships or desperate broadcasts. Earth just went dark. The Thurs officers exchanged glances, uneasy. Then the lieutenant's panel beeped. Commander, we've lost contact with Koshver 2. No signal, no distress beacon. Another officer spun from her console. 3 just vanished from long-range sensors. Jacques' crest flattened. Scanned the area. Full sweep. I want eyes. On a flash outside the viewport stopped him cold. Koshver 5 a 900-meter Thurs. Warship detonated in absolute silence. Not from a missile, not from external impact, from inside. Chunks of its hull drifted like frozen bones through space. As Zach zoomed in, his blood chilled, burned into the debris. Scorched and twisted by heat far beyond Thurs' plasma thresholds, was a single Terran phrase charred deep into alloy plating. We saw you first. The bridge fell silent. Then came the whispering dot within the Thurs fleet. Lights dimmed. One by one, ship systems went offline. Not destroyed, not hacked, just dead. Like something knew how they worked. Zach backed away from the display. This is not possible. They cannot be this. A ping echoed across every Thurs ship simultaneously. Another message. In Galactic Core Standard. Text only. This was your first mistake. You thought we were the prey. We've had a long time to watch you, now it's our turn. As the last word blinked on screen, Earth lit up not with weapon fire, but with coordinated satellite realignments, hidden stations powering up, stealth drones rising from oceans, deserts, ice. Zach stared at the growing storm. For the first time in his cold, conquest-fueled life, he felt fear. The Thurs Dominion fleet didn't retreat, that it stalled, paralyzed in orbit above Earth. 30 warships remained in formation, but 2/3 were dark. No comms, no telemetry. Some drifted like corpses. Zach, aboard the crippled command ship, Koshver paced in his command nest. Emergency lights flickered red. His crew moved like ghosts, silent and afraid. None had ever seen warships die without being fired upon. Reverse position. Move to high orbits. Initiate combat recon protocols. Launch drones, Zach ordered, forcing authority into his voice. Nothing responded. Sir, his lieutenant whispered, eyes wide. Our systems are fine. No external damage. But something's taken root in the command net. It isn't like any virus we've ever seen. Zach looked out the viewport at the swirling Earth below. They were supposed to be primitives. Meanwhile, in Earth's deepest shadows, beneath an ice shelf in Antarctica, an ancient bunker hummed to life. Its steel doors hadn't opened. In 70 years, a long-dead satellite had triggered a silent alert code, Alpha Gray. Inside, man stood alone in the dark, staring at an interface that had waited decades to speak again. His name was Commander Marin Holt, court-martialed, buried, Forgotten, she placed her palm on the cold scanner. It still recognized her. Access granted. Protocol INS, KYA, CTIV lights buzzed on one by one, revealing a massive chamber, black steel walls lined with strange, reverse-engineered alien tech. In the center, a globe hologram of Earth, now glowing red with hostile proximity markers dot above the globe, a blinking phrase, "They're here." Holt didn't flinch. She simply exhaled, cracked her knuckles, and said, "Told you they'd come." She moved fast, reactivating the dormant AI, reviving hidden orbital defense grids, redirecting Earth's weather satellites into weapons platforms. Every motion was precise, practiced, because she'd been preparing for this all her life, and she wasn't alone. Around the world, forgotten bases came online. In the Mariana Trench, a human-piloted sub-activated stealth drones that rose toward orbit on silent boosters. In a ghost city in Kazakhstan, children watched in awe as rooftops split open and long dormant turrets emerged, unfolding like mechanical flowers. In orbit, derelict mining stations written off as abandoned opened up to reveal railgun arrays the size of skyscrapers. Humanity had hidden everything. For decades, they had never broadcast their strength. They buried it until now, back in Thur's orbit, the dread grew. The Thur's flagship finally picked up a faint signal, static at first, then clear audio. Humanvoice.com, cold female, to the invaders in orbit. You scanned for threats, you understood. You didn't scan for us. You measured strength by what was visible. You forgot that Earth has always survived extinction. We've had nukes, plagues, and each other. We didn't need aliens to teach us war. Pause, static. Then you should have left us alone. Suddenly, every Earth-based launch platform fired. Thousands of coordinated missile trails streaked into space, not to hit the ships, but to release clouds of electromagnetic chaff, decoys, and hunter drones. The entire orbital battlefield went blind. Inside the Koshva, the view screen shattered in a flash of light. Then silence. Zack collapsed to the deck, a ringing in all 5 ears. He looked up, dazed, as the stars flickered unnaturally. Of his crew whispered, "Sir, we're being boarded." Zack laughed, a shrill, broken thing. Impossible. The crewman showed him the footage. A small, humanoid shape was cutting through their hull with a weapon that didn't exist in the Dominion's catalog. It turned its helmet toward the camera and smiled. High Commander Jacques' screams echoed through the corridors of the Koshva, not from pain. From disbelief. The security feed kept looping. A single Terran armored in matte black composite, helmet visor lit with faint red breached. The Thur's flagship with a tool that shouldn't cut through living alloy holes. But it did. And then the human smiled at the camera. Not cruelly, not arrogantly, just like they'd been waiting for this. The feed cut out after that. No warning, no system breach, no self-destruct, just a clean silence. Zack stood frozen at the terminal, fists trembling. One human. One. And an entire ship section gone. His second-in-command broke the silence. "We've identified a pattern. These aren't random attacks. They're striking critical logistics chains, command nodes, and data cores. It's orchestrated. They're not improvising. They're executing a playbook." Zack turned slowly, mandibles clenched. A species that hasn't left its solar system does not possess a playbook. The lieutenant showed him a projection. Earth's orbit was now full of scattered debris, but also hundreds of cloaked heat signatures. Dozens of human strike pods were already inside the Dominion fleet. This wasn't an invasion defense. This was a counter-invasion on the far side of the moon, inside an asteroid base that officially never existed. Commander Holt knelt before a terminal pulsing with pale blue light. Screens around her showed every Thur's ship, every blind spot, every breach zone, and every countdown. Behind her, a dozen field operatives checked weapons, grave knives, zero-G breaching charges, hard-light disruptors tech, stolen and rebuilt from Dominion wrecks over the last 30 years. She stood. "This is our first real contact with them," she said quietly. "Let's make it memorable." The room chuckled darkly. No one here wore rank insignia. They weren't part of Earth's public militaries. They were Ghost Group Zero, formed in the shadows after Roswell, trained in silence, raised for this very day. Holt tapped her coms. "All ghosts, begin Operation Scorchvein." In orbit, the Thur's fleet began falling apart. Not from missiles, from ideas. Each targeted ship found its core data corrupted not by viruses, but by logic bombs crafted by human minds used to outwitting each other for thousands of years. Code that lied to systems, that whispered, "Your engines are fine," while it rerouted coolant into weapons bays. One ship launched its own escape pods into the side of its command bridge. Thurs, engineers screamed into control panels as their own tech betrayed them. On Koshva 7, a Thurs captain stood surrounded by the corpses of his crew. He hadn't seen what killed them. The cameras had caught only shadows, blurs of movement in zero-G, like predators born without fear. He backed into a corner, claws raised. A voice spoke in perfect Thurs dialect, but cold, emotionless, human. You invaded our home without asking who we were. Now you'll meet all the things we became to survive it. A grenade rolled to his feet. He never saw the detonation. Back on Earth, civilian networks remained silent. The planet looked docile, even defenseless. But in orbit, the Dominion had lost 11 ships in 11 minutes, and Earth had yet to fire a single kinetic weapon. Zack finally collapsed into his command throne. The silence on the bridge was no longer confused. It was terror, he muttered. They're not warriors. They're not soldiers. A junior officer leaned in, whispering the new word spreading through the fleet. They call themselves humans, Commander, and they fight like extinction is normal to them. The lights inside Koshva 9 flickered again for 2 standard hours. The crew had worked in silence, no external signals, no command updates, no enemy fire, but the ship felt wrong. The walls creaked as if breathing. The temperature dropped unnaturally. Hallway doors opened by themselves, and the surveillance cams all played static. The Thurs weren't a superstitious species. Until now. Deck 14. Biosystems Engineering. Sub-Officer Valek crept down the corridor, pulse rifle drawn. His head crest twitched with every flicker of light. The crew here had gone silent 20 minutes ago. He found the first body crumpled in a crawlspace, no wounds, no signs of struggle. Just eyes frozen wide and mouth agape like he'd seen something. That snapped his mind in half. Valek checked his dead, no signal, just soft static, but then just barely audible a whisper. In Thurs, you taught us fear. Now we'll teach it back. His blood ran cold. Suddenly, the overhead lights died completely, and in the dark, a red dot appeared, chest height, steady, then it blinked. Volek fired wildly, rounds ricocheting off bulkhead walls, but there was nothing there. Only a whisper beside, his ear too slow. Bridge of the Thurs command ship, Volta Jacques' remaining fleet captains appeared via holla, all speaking at once, panic in their voices. A break from rigid Thurs decorum. Something's inside our hull. They bypassed our scans. They're playing with us. Zack leaned forward. How? Where did they learn our systems? Silence. They didn't learn them, Commander. They designed something worse. The feed cut out, drenched in red, light and screaming. Back on Earth, deep inside a hangar beneath Colorado Rockies, Commander Holt monitored each ghost team's biometric vitals. Heartbeats, steady, oxygen, balanced, mission timers, synchronized. She zoomed in on Team Vale. Currently infiltrating the Thurs comms relay on Koshva 13. One squad member A stood silently above a Thurs tactician who hadn't noticed her. She was upside down in zero-G, attached to the ceiling like a spider. Her voice crackled in Holt's earpiece. He's alone. He just started crying. Not sure if I should shoot or offer therapy. Holt replied dryly. No attachments, Reyes. Scare him. Then disable the core. Boo. Elsewhere in the fleet, Dominion soldiers began to turn on each other, paranoia gripping them. Power fluctuations made every reflection look like a Terran infiltrator. The humans weren't fighting for territory. They were fighting like they'd already won. And this was cleanup. Zack stared at a private log on his console, a translation, recovered from human historical files. It wasn't military data. It was from a Terran film, centuries old. The enemy cannot push a button. If you disable his hand, below the quote, video footage blurry, grainy showed a ghost operative, calmly severing a Thurs engineer's appendages with surgical precision. Not in cruelty, just necessity, no rage, no cruelty, just calculation. On a derelict cruiser, the last surviving Thurs engineer huddled in a vent. Something skittered past. Metal on metal. He held his breath. A human masked pelt. Future. By the vents, slit. It paused. Then, ever so slowly, turned to look at him. Not with eyes. With awareness. The engineer screamed. Back on the Earthside command channel, Holt finally spoke aloud what no Thurs had yet understood. You wanted a war. You expected soldiers. But you woke something older. We are the children of extinction. And we're very, very good at surviving things that should have killed us. The Thurs Dominion had always relied on one final, reliable tactic when power began to slip: terror. If military assets failed, if resistance grew too costly, if lesser species dared fight back, you burn their children first. And so, when the Dominion's Front line shattered under the weight of Terran sabotage. The ruling council authorized Operation Shatterseed. Target Keplanian, a human colony of 200,000. Unarmed, remote, peaceful. They expected screams, broadcasts, capitulation. What they got instead was silence and then rage. The strike came in the third night cycle. Kepler's twin suns had just dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in lavender light. Children chased glowing kites beneath the arc of a protective dome. Parents sipped sympathy, laughing under the first stars. Then the sky tore open. 7 Thurs bombers screamed through atmosphere like falling blades. Plasma payloads lit up the night in pulses white, then red, then absolute black. The dome collapsed inward. What didn't vaporize, burned. The Thurs didn't bother landing. They left the planet charred, cratered, broken. On Earth, Commander Holt stood in a silent room watching the broadcast footage. The Thurs themselves had leaked. They'd made it a message. To humans, to the galaxy: fight us, and we will unmake your roots. The video looped again, a child's stuffed animal, floating in zero-G ash, bumping slowly against a broken helmet visor. Holt said nothing. Then, one by one, the lights in Earth's underground command chambers dimmed, screens turned red. Across Terran-controlled space, every hidden outpost received the same command: unrestricted response, a Taurus seed. For the first time in centuries, humanity didn't defend, they unleashed. 4 days later, the Thurs colony world of Belzon went dark. Not from orbital bombardment, not from infiltration, from dismantling. The entire atmosphere, processor thousands of meters tall, collapsed inward. Gravity wells detonated in succession. Entire cities were dragged into their own cores. There were no transmissions, no declarations, only one visual was ever recovered by a passing drone. A massive human drone carrier hovering above the ruins, carved into its underside with raw plasma. We watched your bombs fall. Now you'll watch your future collapse. In the Thurs royal spire, panic took root. The Emperor's war ministers hissed and shouted over each other, demanding escalations, sanctions, negotiations, anything. One admiral screamed, "They were supposed to beg." Another replied, voice shaking, "They're not begging, they're hunting." Still another whispered, "We've killed before. We've raised 10 species, but not one like this," came the Emperor's grim reply. In orbit above Earth, a captured Thurs pilot sat bound inside a sterile holding chamber, surrounded by Terran interrogators in emotionless armor. He'd been prepared for pain, but not this. No threats, no torture. Just a chair, a screen, and silence. Then, a video began to play slowly, methodically. Every clip showed human extinction events, nuclear winter simulations, collapse of ecosystems, civil wars, megastorms, plagues. Humanity had survived all of them. Then came footage of Earth's response to Kepler-9, humanitarian drones dropping medical supplies on Thurs slaves. Even while orbital weapons fired above, the pilot sobbed, trembling. "What are you?" he whispered. One of the Terran interrogators leaned in, voice cold. "You hit a child's world. You mistook our mercy for weakness. Now we take your right to sleep without fear." In deep space, a rogue Thurs fleet attempted to flee. They didn't get far. A Terran stealth cruiser painted jet black. No lights, no signature, descended through their formation like a reaper. No survivors. Back on Earth, Holt stood at Kep Memorial, a quiet garden, ash-colored, with a single crystalline monument. She placed the stuffed animal recovered from the wreckage in a glass case beneath the names of the lost. "We tried to be kind. You taught us that kindness isn't always enough." The transmission played once every hour, on every frequency. A burning Thurs city, seen from orbit, a child's toy floating in ash, a simple Terran voice, raw and unedited. "You watched them bomb our children, you stayed silent, but we didn't come to rule, we came to break the chains." Then the screen faded to black. And across the galaxy, those who had once bowed, started to rise. The Evanari Uplift Complex, Sector Theta 91, for 6 generations. The Evanari had lived under the heel of the Thurs, thin-boned, long-necked, and peaceful by design. They were a race of artists and thinkers used as engineers, never trusted, never armed. Today, that changed. A Terran freighter drifted into orbit, broadcasting a single line of code: Iron Sky Protocol, Open Palm. Inside the cargo bay, weapon kits, encrypted intelligence, Thurs internal maps, and something far more powerful, a truth. The Evanari Council watched in silence as Holt's message played. "We are not your masters. We are not your saviors. But we see you. If you want to rise, this is your moment." The oldest counselor, her feathers grayed, whispered, "We thought we were alone." The youngest counselor answered, "We're not, we're just next." Within days, the galaxy changed. The colony whose cities had been buried beneath their own oceans by the Thurs detonated reactors beneath Dominion outposts using human tech to escape the depths. The Dravari, once genetically shackled with obedience implants, used Terran viral code to erase Thurs' neural control. Their first act of freedom: obliterate their masters in orbit. The Quell tribes of the Broken Belt, forgotten and beaten for 1,000 years, now wore Terran exo-armor and screamed war songs in vacuum. What began as a Terran defense had become something else entirely, a reckoning. Inside the Thurs high chamber, panic evolved into fury. The outer colonies are lost. One commander shouted, "They're not human invasions, they're revolts. Our vassals are emboldened by propaganda." "No, not propaganda," said the Emperor coldly. "Permission." He stared into a holoscreen showing dozens of uprisings, spreading like wildfire. They feared us because we silenced them. Now the humans have given them a voice, and worse, a choice. A final whisper from his intelligence minister. "We taught them to bow. The humans taught them to bite." On the rim of Thurs space, Holt stood aboard a makeshift Terran Dravari warship. The Croalian, human, and hybrid teams saluted not to her, but to each other. She addressed them not as commander, but as witness. "We didn't seek empire. We sought survival. At the moment we were tested, you watched, you waited, and you stood. This is no longer Earth's war. This is your war to win or bury forever." Behind her, the Terran Alliance fleet ignited its engine ships, cobbled from stolen parts, rebel tech, and pure desperation, and they moved, together, toward the Thurs core. In secret Dominion channels, elite Thurs commanders gathered to plan a desperate counteroffensive, but their systems stuttered interference. A message overrode their encrypted links. One human voice, calm: "We don't need to conquer. We need you to understand one thing. If we could break free, then, so can they." And now they have. The command feed shut down permanently. In orbit over a freed mining moon, a child stood barefoot, watching Terran dropships land beside rebel forces. He looked up at his father, voice quiet. "Are they gods?" His father knelt and said, "No. They're what happens when no one listens for too long." The Thurs homeworld of Jalarith had not seen war in over 4 millennia. Its atmosphere shimmered with artificial calm, carefully engineered to evoke awe. Emerald clouds hung motionless, the central citadel a needle of obsidian carved into. The sky stood unchallenged by time or rebellion. No shields, no planetary defense grid, because no one had ever dared approach it until now. The darkness came without warning. First, the skies dimmed every orbiting satellite, blinking out simultaneously. The planetary AI tried to compensate, but its code fragmented line by line, overwritten by something older, smarter, human. Next came the tremors, not from below but from above. Dozens of unmarked vessels dropped through the clouds like falling daggers. They didn't land. They embedded into city towers, disgorging strike teams that moved like WRAITHS. No orders. No mercy. The people of Jalarith had never known fear. Now it spread faster than the fire. Inside the citadel, Emperor Korith stood before his throne, motionless, hands clasped behind his back. Below him, his inner council shouted and scrambled, frantic, confused, broken. How did they breach the palace airspace? They're inside the inner walls. We've lost the command link. Silence. The Emperor said. The room stilled. His voice had always been enough to halt rebellion, to command extinction. Until now, when it sounded ... smaller. Footsteps echoed through the high chamber. Not Thurs, not Servitors. Boots. Terran. From the shadows of the Grand Arch, Commander Marinholt emerged, unarmed, alone, her armor dusted with ash, her face shadowed under her helmet's cracked visor. Korith's guards aimed weapons, then hesitated, because she wasn't supposed to be there, and they'd all heard the stories. Korith said, "The human, the ghost." Holt stepped forward. "I'm not here to kill you," she said, voice like ice. "You won't get off that easy." Korith sneered, claws flexing. "You think you've won. You've toppled colonies, stirred slaves, terrorized my fleets. But you've made the same mistake every species makes when it feels fire in its blood. You think victory is momentum, but true power is endurance." Holt reached into her satchel and pulled out a black cube. She placed it on the floor. It began to hum. Then it projected, a hologram. Every Dominion world now under revolt. Hundreds of systems blinking red. Supply lines cut, resource planets gone dark. Allied species now flying the Terran flag beside their own. Holt looked up. Didn't lose to us. You lost to everyone you crushed and ignored. We just showed them how to stand up again. Korith's eyes burned. You humans are a virus. Disease disguised as defiance. Holt stepped closer. The guards didn't move. They didn't dare. What happens when you teach a species survival through chaos? We didn't conquer death. We learned to shake its hand. And now you get to watch everything you built crumble brick by stolen brick. The Emperor lunged forward, but stumbled. His throne room, his sanctuary began to tremble. The outer city had fallen. Terran banners flew from its spires. And the people, they weren't bowing, they were singing. Later, as Holt walked from the Citadel's shattered gates, Hercom's buzzed. Target secured. No executions. Broadcast systems live. She paused, then nodded. Send the message. You ruled by fear. We answered with fire. You took our children. We taught the galaxy to rise. We do not ask for peace. We earned it. The throne has cracked. The war is over. You chose the humans. The Third Dominion fell in silence. Not with a final battle cry. Not with desperate last stands. Just ... Stillness. From one end of the galaxy to the other. Dominion networks went dark. Planetary governors vanished. Slave collars deactivated. Warships turned in orbit and surrendered to rebel fleets they once dismissed as animals. The empire that spanned 1,000 stars broke in a single generation because they chose the wrong enemy. 6 months later, a black monument hovered in neutral space, suspended in low orbit above the ruins of Jalao. No weapons, no guards, just a simple structure of obsidian alloy floating silently. It wasn't built by humans alone. The Evanari etched its frame, the Dravari powered its reactor, the Colnari forged its base, and the Terrans they wrote the message. Every standard cycle, the monument's shield would peel back, and the galaxy would see a human hand, carved in silver, clutching a broken crown, of Thursbone-metal. Below it, inscribed in over 300 languages, this is what happens when you mistake silence for weakness, and beneath that, of all the species to mess with, you chose the humans. Commander Holt stood alone at the viewing platform, far above Earth, watching stars flicker in the black. She wore no rank now, no uniform, just the face of someone who had seen extinction from the other side, and dragged her people back from it. A young Evanari child stepped beside her, wide-eyed. Is it true, the girl asked, that your world nearly destroyed itself before the stars even knew you existed? Holt nodded slowly, more than once. Then how did you win? She looked at the stars for a long time before answering. Because when the galaxy stopped seeing us, we started watching them instead. In the Thurs ruins, survivors wandered through ash and quiet, unsure what came next. A message played on every terminal, intangible, untraceable. It showed images of Earth's great collapses, wars, famine, floods, rebirth. And then it said, we do not seek revenge, but we remember. If you raise weapons again against the weak, the voiceless, the small, we will return. Not as liberators, not as warriors, as the lesson you forgot the first time. The galaxy began to reshape itself. Coalitions formed, species, long oppressed, now free to build, govern, defend. The Terran Accord didn't demand territory. They offered something far more terrifying to those who understood history: choice. And in the deepest corners of space, where new empires quietly began to rise, a single phrase now passed between war councils like an ancient curse: don't wake Earth. On Kepler 9a, the colony had been rebuilt. Stronger, greener, brighter. Where ash once blew across shattered fields, now children played again under a sky guarded by unseen satellites and drones that would never blink. One little boy sat near the garden monument, holding a new stuffed animal. He looked up at his mother. Will the bad ones come back? She smiled faintly. Maybe, but if they do, she pointed to the sky, we know what to do this time. Final transmission broadcast from Earth's deep real-time unknown, receiver unknown. We are not conquerors. We do not expand. But we watch, we remember who helped and who stood by. We remember who struck first and who begged last. We are not the monsters under your bed. We are the ones who come when they finally crawl out.